Hello everyone, welcome back to Survival Minecraft. I am starting off to build a brand new city in a medieval fantasy style. It's going to fill up the empty space on either side of the castle and in the rest of the valley as well. I made a lot of progress in today's episode and I can't wait to show it to you. I had to do a lot of terraforming of course, but I also wanted to incorporate the natural terrain. For the support beams, I wanted it to look cohesive, so I went with spruce for all of the structures. I went with mostly 3 wide places and tried to use a variety of different shapes. I also added some overhangs using logs and slabs and stairs. Most of the buildings had 2 stories, but some were shorter and only had 1 story. It is looking quite spruce heavy right now, but I will change it up a bit with other blocks. Let me know what you think of the brand new update that's coming out with all of the baby mobs and the golden dandelion. Do you think it's a good update and are you excited to have new mob varieties? Now we can get a look at the structure so far, and it's looking pretty good. It looks quite empty in the valley so far, but I will definitely add more later on. For the walls of this structure I am using simple polished andesite from my villager trading hall. And I will have windows in some of the walls and a doorway. I added some stairs, fences, and trapdoors for details. I wanted to have some overhangs here so that I could put leaf blocks for decoration and a pop of color. On the next floor, it was a bit short, but I added some diorite from my trading hall. I don't think these buildings will have interiors, but I might come back in a future episode and decorate them. For the roof, I made a trim of spruce wood, and it would have a very high peaked roof. I don't think this would be super realistic, but you do have some chalets that have very tall roofs. Now you can see it compared to the rest of our builds, and it does match this style. I tried using diorite to match the second floor, but decided that I wasn't super keen on it, so I swapped it out with some bone blocks, which I got mass quantity of from my skeleton farm. It's looking a lot better now, although it is kind of hard to see from a distance. So I removed all of the polished diorite and replaced it with some oak, because I decided that I didn't even want it next on the second floor. For the roof I used some polished granite, and it was a bit tricky to figure out how to connect it all together, but I got there in the end. I went with this combination of blocks and stairs because it lets you make a very tall fantasy style roof. And there you go, it's looking a bit like a gingerbread house. It's kind of cute and I like it a lot. I also added some more support beams for the roof in a Tudor style pattern, so it's looking very good, and I'm going to make a lot more houses in this style. I moved on to the next structure, and you guessed it, that meant more spruce. In between clips, I used bone meal to grow giant spruce trees and chop them down, and then I repaired my tools by my zombie spawner and trading with villagers. I used stone bricks for this building, and I got that from the mines. It is quite... I also made another smaller building near the castle, but I didn't want that building to be taller than the wall, which is the reason why it's so short. But it's kind of cute, like a little gatekeeper's cottage. For the next floor, I used some bricks, and it looks really good. I like the old school texture. And I added a little front entrance to that one. And for the roof, I decided to go with some dark oak, because it would suit the red bricks. And I decided to go with a different roof shape this time, and it looks really good. But I did want a trim on all four corners of that roof, so I would swap out some blocks with spruce. I moved on to another building, and once again decided to use some more bricks, stone bricks, because this is a city. I will unfortunately have to repeat some patterns and blocks, but it will look really good when it's all finally done. I went with a shorter roof this time, and because it was short I was able to use some mangrove wood. It was very tedious to chop down, but it looks really good. This time I just wanted to use some good old cobblestone, and of course more bone blocks. They have a really nice Tudor look, and they're not as bright as pale oak or diorite, so it's a lot easier on the eyes. I wanted to alternate between different types of grey blocks, so I rotated between andesite, stone, and cobblestone. And later on I would use some tuff and deep slate. This time I wanted to make a diagonal building because I wanted it to fit the natural landscape. I didn't want everything to be square and rectangular. It was quite tricky to make it look good, and I couldn't have as many details as my normal rectangular buildings. But I'm glad I did, because it looks amazing in the end, if I do say so myself. If you want any help with making diagonal buildings, feel free to take inspiration from this building in the techniques that I used. What is your favorite wood type to use in builds, or are you also a spruce fan? Spruce and stone just goes so well together, even though it's very old school. I do really like it for medieval fantasy builds. Can't go wrong with spruce and stone and oak. Here you can see we have quite a few builds, including an L-shaped building like I made in the previous episode. It was very easy to get mass quantity of bricks from villagers, so that's how I got them, in case you're wondering. And that's also why I wanted to use materials that were easily farmable, such as the polished versions. But here you can see the progress I have made so far, and it's really coming together and filling out the space in a rather organic way. Even the L-shaped building just fits really snugly into that dip in the landscape. To break things up, I used some more polished granite, and I continued using this style of roof. I really like these ledges because you can make planter boxes with leaves or flowers. If you wanted to have even more color, you could use cherry leaves, but I thought they were a little too bright for this time. However, I also did want to change things up a bit, so I decided to use some deep slate and went mining underground. I found a bunch more diamonds as well, which was a nice byproduct of that. Deep slate tiles are perhaps my favorite roof type in all of Minecraft. They just look really good, and they are quite realistic to how some real world roofs are. The The only downside about this block palette is that it meant that I had to chop down dozens of giant spruce trees. The building blocks were quite easy to get for my skeleton farm and villagers, but the wood I had to chop down by hand, and so I constantly had to repair my axe. Even the mining went a lot quicker, although I don't have a beacon yet. I added some support beams because they really do help to break up the roof and make it look more interesting. Although this one I ended up stripping the spruce wood because otherwise it stood out too much and clashed with the roof trim. I should probably start using scaffolding, but I'm not a huge fan of bamboo scaffolding. I much prefer using dirt or other blocks. What do you use, and are you a fan of scaffolding or not? I just find it a bit tricky to navigate. But as you can see, having normal spruce just kind of clashes and stands out a bit too much, although it goes well with the dark oak roofs and the deep slate roofs. So I decided to strip this version, but I left the logs, I left the support beams from the rest of the house just non-stripped. So I think that turned out a lot better. I made some little platforms that I could have a good view of my projects, and I recommend doing that because having a skyline is quite important for building. I also wanted to make this roof diagonal, but it was a bit tricky to do, so I had to use blocks instead of stairs, although it is possible to use stairs. But yeah. Next, I wanted to fill out some more empty space by the farming area, so I decided to make a building that was perhaps a town hall or maybe a tavern. It is definitely one of the larger buildings. It was also 2 stories because I wanted it to be visible from a distance. And there you can see just how much spruce I had to chop down. I might make a tree farm in a future episode because it is quite tedious to have to manually chop so many logs. And I do go through a ton of wood in my projects. Let me know if you use TNT dupers for farms, such as tree farms and cobblestone generators. For this building, I used more polished diorite, and then I would use bone blocks for the second story and deep slate for the roof. I filled out all of the windows, but I wanted to have the roof shape be slightly different, so that's why you see that little pattern there. As you can see, I decided to break up the roof into 2 parts instead of having it be one large roof, because I thought it could be cool to have a little balcony, and it just makes it slightly more unique. I decided to continue using some deep slate for this roof because we had a lot of brighter blocks for the first 2 floors. It is looking pretty good, but it took a lot of deep slate, that's for sure. I then wanted to decorate the area, so I decided to make a fountain. I used some polished diorite because it has a rather marble type of look. I made this tall part of the fountain and then placed some water source blocks, and I used stairs to help guide the water, and it came out pretty good. There are many more elaborate fountains you could do, but I decided to keep it rather simple. I extended it with some slabs so that it wouldn't feel so out of place. And then I extended a pathway around it. I got an idea to make a kind of spokes of a wheel and a roundabout type of path. I do need to connect it also to the castle, but I'll do that in a future episode. In between, I did a lot of terraforming, and I attempted to make yet another diagonal building. This time, I went primarily with bone blocks and spruce. Making windows was the hardest part of a diagonal build, because it's very easy in regular buildings, but if you can pull it off, diagonal buildings look very organic and natural. I decided to add more arches and stairs for extra detail and depth. Then I experimented with a window design and finally settled on this version with slabs and fences. I've seen some people use scaffolding for windows, and I might do that in the future, but I didn't have a string farm just yet. But I was pretty happy with how that came out, and for extra detail I used some of the new shelves as window shutters. I placed in a door and made some more stairs and arches in all of the other buildings. I used fences for these windows because they connected to the blocks. And I made some more overhangs so that I could put some oak leaves on them. Just something as simple as arches really helps to make a build look a lot more put together and detailed. I decided to fill up this empty space here with some stalls for maybe their market stalls or just like supply stalls. They can store things. It breaks up the structures from only having houses, and a settlement would definitely have some storage sheds, so I thought it was a good idea. I made some chairs and tables as if it was a little picnic area for the villagers. And maybe the building next to it is a cafe. It would be nice to get furniture, but I don't think Mojang would ever add that. But as you can see, we've got some more paths in this kind of spokes of a wheel pattern. I added some more details with some simple barrels to act as piles of storage. I made some chimneys, and I would later put campfires in them, because it really does help make the buildings feel more used and lived in. It also helps to give some more motion and movement to the build. I went with alternating blocks, just to make it slightly different. I planted some more trees and bone mealed the ground to get some more greenery and color. And now it's time for the grand reveal. As you can see, we have a really cozy alpine cottage core village. It came out a lot better than I expected, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. It's not yet connected to the castle, but there you could see our starter base, and so there's a lot of empty space in the middle, and I do plan to fill all of this out with build, and even build off over there in the distance. And maybe do something in that valley too. But now I'll quickly fly down and do a little walkthrough for you. we have this cozy little sitting area next to this house, and I added in some leaf blocks and more windows. Of course, it's not exactly finished. Some of the houses still need some more work, but we have some more seating area, and we have these little stalls that maybe they're for storage or for a market, but who knows. And there's this diagonal window design, which I repeated on some of the sides. You can walk through them, but yeah. I also made a diagonal doorway, which was kind of tricky, but we have regular house designs and another diagonal house. They're all empty on the inside, and I don't know if I'll ever complete them, but we do have another L-shaped house, which is like in the farming area. I made some paths and staircases and linked them up to this higher level and that mangrove house over there. Let me know if you would like to see a video where I do interiors for all of these houses. I don't know if that would be boring or not. And to make it look more connected to the landscape, I planted a forest behind it because it acts as a nice natural border. And there we have that very tall roof. I heard a zombie, so it's probably underground or in the second floor. And here we have the tiny little cottage. But yeah, it came out pretty good. I linked this one up to the castle, at least. And the castle still needs some work, with more arches, and I have to fill in these planter beds, but I've been using them to grow trees. I also need to complete that gatehouse, because it is looking kind of awkward. But this path takes us to the farming area, where we have the tavern, and I made this platform where I plan to build some more structures. I really like this Tudor design. It fits in with these buildings quite well, and really fills out the space and makes it look more connected. Otherwise it felt kind of like it was off on its own, and not really a part of the castle or the village. But now I want to build some more houses and other things in this area. And here you can see our starter base, of course. It's all coming along really nicely, and I'm very happy with how this world is turning out. Don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's very fun to build and very relaxing. But flying is a bit tricky to land on this platform that I made, so it's good practice. And here you can see how it looks from the air. It's quite a nice skyline, if I do say so myself. I just need to link up the paths. Well, now we are at the farming area, and I've made a lot of progress with more spruce logs. I went with regular rectangular design and a little bit that poked outwards for the doorway. This time I wanted to use some deep slate to change things up a bit. What is your go-to build style, and what is your favorite biome to build in? It's looking a lot busier now, but we made a lot of progress. For the walls I rotated between some white blocks, and this time I used polished diorite. Now you can see that these 4 houses are complete, and they look really good. I went with different roof types, with deep slate and bricks. I made some shorter houses because I didn't want them to block the view of the farmland, but maybe they're for slightly poorer people to live in, or their shops or something like that. And now we have the finished houses, and it really fills out the area quite nicely. I wanted to make a church because that feels like it would fit in quite well with the landscape and the medieval atmosphere. I also wanted to build another house because this part of the area was feeling a bit empty. Well, here you have the final product. We have that side on the right, and it's looking very cozy, and this side next to the mountain on the left with all of the farms. It turned out as good as I had hoped, and it fits the landscape very well. Of course, I do need to connect the paths to the castle and add some more retaining walls or maybe terrain. But now I will fly down and have a quick walkthrough of what I have built so far. I extended the path all the way to this upper level, and I planted some extra flowers and trees. Some of these houses are shorter because I didn't want them to block the view of the crops, and I do need to finish adding some things like a couple windows and doors and roofs, because the entrances don't have any roofs just yet. But this path leads us past these houses, which might be shops and other accommodation, and we have this awesome Tudor style building, which could be like a tavern, I thought, because it has just that vibe to it. And then I decided to build this 3-story building, and maybe it's a warehouse or some other kind of structure. I went with also this very Tudor style architecture, but I still need to add some more details to it. This path takes us back to the farming area with the copper's house, and I connected it to this hill, which leads up these steps to a church. These steps have a very nice view of the landscape and the buildings that we made, and it came out pretty well. I still need to add some more details. I might add a graveyard, for example, and an interior to the church, but it does have a tower, it does have a bell tower, and I used some yellow stained glass. It doesn't have a floor and half the roof is missing, but at least I can fly out of it and hopefully land on the bell tower, which doesn't even have a bell yet. The back of the castle is not done either, but yeah, it came out really good, and it really fills out the space on either side of the castle. The particles from the cherry trees are really nice and relaxing, and I'm glad that they added them to the other leaf types, to the other trees, although they are more subtle. I really do need to work on these interiors, but I'll get to it one of these days. But I do like how this build came out. They're very cozy and it reminds me a little bit of a Swiss mountain village, which is the vibe that I was going for. But that is all the time we have for today's episode. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please do subscribe to the channel and like the video if you enjoyed it, because it really helps out the channel. Thanks for all your continued support on this series. I will keep making new episodes, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know if you have any feedback, and take care. Bye-bye.